one broke mechanic, one billionaire's fishing trip, one storm that changed everything. I wasn't supposed to be on the dock that morning. Wasn't supposed to be anywhere near Port Echo, really? But life's like that sometimes. One detour, one broken truck belt, one bad cup of gas station coffee, and bam, you're standing on splintered wood watching seagulls scream over cold Atlantic water. My name's Logan. 32, ex-roofer, part-time mechanic, full-time down on his luck. The kind of guy who knows exactly how far a dollar stretches and how hard it snaps when it breaks. I was staying in a rust-stained motel with ocean view curtains that smelled like mildew and regret. Spent most mornings fiddling with busted-out lawn mowers in the back of a hardware shop just off Main. Paid cash. No questions. It kept the lights on. So when this tall man in a white linen shirt and ridiculous sunglasses wandered into the shop and asked, "You know how to fix an outboard?" I didn't say much. Just nodded and followed him out. His boat was docked at the private end of the marina, the part with gates and security cameras and signs that say things like authorized only and trespassers will be shot, survivors charged. Didn't faze him. He walked like the dock was built under his feet. Name on the hull, Serafina. Big, shiny, and spotless. The kind of vessel you see in magazines next to ads for overpriced watches. Friend's boat? I asked. He grinned. No, she's mine. Name's Carter Langford. And just like that I knew who he was. Langford Industries. Oil and tech, old money and scandal. The man had made headlines a decade back for something involving a private island and a failed submarine project. The internet called him eccentric. Wall Street called him a genius. Me? I just called him rich. But on that dock, squinting at an engine that wouldn't start, he looked more like a bored retiree than a billionaire. Still, I got to work because rent doesn't pay itself. You fish? He asked as I tightened a bolt. Sometimes, I muttered. Come with me, he said, like it was the most normal thing in the world. Just for today. Weather's decent and I hate being out there alone. I hesitated. I had tools in the bed of my truck. A lukewarm Coke. A half-eaten sub. Nothing urgent. Fine, I said. But I don't bait hooks. He laughed. Fair enough. We left the harbor by noon, wind at our backs, salt in the air. Serafina cut through the water like silk. He let me steer for a bit, gave me a crash course on digital navigation, sonar, depth readings. I didn't know rich men like to teach strangers how to use their toys, but Carter did. Maybe he was just lonely. He told me about his ex-wife. His estranged son. His private retreat in the Bahamas that he never visited anymore. His favorite jazz band. The one time he got arrested in Monaco for punching a Russian prince. Long story, he said, laughing. I listened. I'm good at that. By late afternoon, the sky had turned. One of those quick squalls, the kind that rolls in without warning and turns everything gray. Think we should turn back? I asked, eyeing the clouds. But Carter was stubborn. 5 more miles. Fish bite better near the drop-off. The fish never bit. But the storm did. It hit fast. No thunder, no dramatic buildup. Just rain like knives and waves like fists. Serafina pitched hard, the wheel jerking from Carter's hands. He went down hard, head cracking the console. Blood mixed with rain. And just like that, it was up to me. I'd never captained anything bigger than a canoe. But I got us turned. I fought that storm like it owed me money, one hand on the wheel, the other trying to hold Carter's unconscious body from sliding across the deck. The water came over the rail, soaked me to the bone. The GPS went black. The radio fried. It was just me in the wind and the screaming dark. By the time I saw the lights of the harbor again, I couldn't feel my fingers. But we made it. Barely. They met us at the dock with stretchers and questions. I just walked away. Didn't want thanks. Didn't expect anything. Which is why I nearly jumped out of my skin when, 3 days later, Carter Langford himself showed up outside the hardware shop. A bandage on his forehead. And a look in his eye like he owed me something bigger than gratitude. 3 days after I dragged his bleeding body through a gale, Carter Langford strolled into the hardware shop like nothing had happened. No fanfare. No bodyguards. Just a stitched-up brow, designer loafers, and a paper coffee cup steaming like a chimney in December. You're a hard man to find, Logan. I was elbow-deep in a busted Snowblower motor, grease on my hands, brain still recovering from nearly dying at sea. You're not, I said without looking up. He chuckled. Fair. But most people return my calls. I straightened, wiped my hands on a rag. Didn't leave a number. I left a note. With a $100 bill. I used the bill. Burned the note. That made him laugh harder. Loud and full. Like I told the best joke in a boardroom. He sipped his coffee. You saved my life. I'm not used to that. Not used to storms? I'm not used to people doing things for me when they don't have to. He glanced around the shop like it offended him. A lawnmower coughed in the corner. The air reeked of gasoline and old coffee filters. This your plan? He asked. Fix other people's broken things until your back gives out? It's honest work. No such thing, he said casually. There's only smart work and desperate work. You're doing the second kind. I bristled. What do you want, Langford? He smiled like he'd been waiting for that question. To pay you back. Already did, I said. Didn't die. He pulled a folded slip of paper from his coat and held it out. You into the market? I snorted. The only stocks I buy come with barbecue sauce. This is a tip, he said. A real one. The kind that changes zip codes. I didn't take it. Why me? Because you didn't ask for anything. And because the last man I trusted with this information bought a yacht and named it Karma. I like your style better. I took the paper. One word was written on it. Veritide. Startup, he said. Biotech. They've got a contract with the feds about to drop. Not public yet. But when it hits. I unfolded the paper slowly. You're telling me to buy this? I'm telling you to scrape together every cent you can spare. Call in favors. Sell that busted truck. Whatever it takes. And buy. You said biotech? He nodded. Cancer detection algorithm. It works. Trust me. I folded the paper. Slipped it in my back pocket. Said nothing. He didn't press. Just pulled a money clip from his jacket and peeled off $500 like he was tipping a valet. For the snowblower, he said, gesturing to the busted machine between us. It's not yours. I just bought the shop. He dropped the cash on the workbench and walked out. Just like that. No handshake. No goodbye. Just Carter Langford disappearing into the fog of Port Echo with the same swagger he rode in on. That night I stared at the note. Veritide. I didn't know the first thing about stocks. But I knew desperation. I'd seen it in the mirror every day for a year. And maybe, just maybe, this was my life trying to pivot. I sold the truck. I cashed out my savings, what little was left. Called in a favor from an old buddy who still owed me from a bailout back in 2016. $2,000 total. A fortune to me. Pocket change to Carter Langford. I opened an online account. Took a breath. Bought in. And then I waited. 3 days passed. Nothing. Price barely moved. 7 days. Still nothing. I cursed myself for being a sucker. Day 10? I woke up to 3 missed calls and a text from my buddy that just said, turn on the news. Veritide stock soars 320% after federal approval of diagnostic tech. My heart punched a hole through my ribs. I logged in. My $2,000 was now $8,000. By nightfall, it was $12,400. And by the next week, just shy of $27,000. More money than I'd ever seen in my name. I didn't tell anyone. Didn't celebrate. Just stared at the number like it was a hallucination. But the thing about miracles? They don't come clean. Not for guys like me. Because on day 15, someone left a note on my motel room door. Black envelope. Typed label. Just 3 words. Don't trust him. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of the motel bed. Blinds cracked just enough to let the sodium orange glow of the parking lot seep in. That note, the one that said don't trust him, sat on the little table by the window like a loaded gun. I checked the door twice. Triple locked. Jammed a chair under the knob for good measure. I'm not the paranoid type. I don't believe in boogeymen or spooks hiding in closets. But when your net worth jumps overnight and anonymous notes start showing up where you sleep, your instincts wake up fast. Next morning, I skipped the hardware shop. Took a walk. Through the marina. Past the lobster shacks and the half-board tackle store. Ended up back at Serafina. Moored quiet at Dock C like she hadn't nearly drowned me 2 weeks ago. Carter was on board. He was in his deck chair, sunglasses on, sipping something with too much ice and not enough daylight to justify it. He spotted me, smiled. Logan, to what do I owe the pleasure? I climbed aboard. Didn't smile. Got a note, I said. He raised an eyebrow. Fan mail. Black envelope. No return address. Just 3 words. I pulled it from my coat and handed it to him. He read it. Didn't flinch. Well, he said, that's ominous. You know anything about it? Plenty of people don't trust me. Hell, half the people on my Christmas list would poison my eggnog if they thought I wouldn't notice. That's supposed to make me feel better? He sighed, sat up. You made money, didn't you? Yeah, a lot. Then congratulations. You're officially visible. I frowned. Visible to who? Carter stood, walked to the stern, lit a cigarette like it was a habit he only allowed when things got serious. You ever hear of Ninefold? I shook my head. Private hedge group. Secretive. Nasty. They don't like surprises, especially when those surprises move the market before they do. I used to consult for a guy tied to them. Big mistake. I think Veritide spooked them. You think they sent the note? I think someone doesn't like that I made you rich without cutting them in. I crossed my arms. So now what? I'm just a target because I got lucky? He looked at me, really looked at me. For the first time since the storm. You didn't get lucky. You made a choice. You saw a door crack open, and instead of asking for permission, you walked through. He dropped the cigarette overboard. But you also need to understand something, Logan. When you start playing with money, the real kind, it's not just profit and loss anymore. It's territory, blood, control. I'm not in that world, I said. You are now. He reached into his coat and handed me a small, black flash drive. What's this? Insurance. It's encrypted. Don't plug it in unless something feels off. And if you do, make sure you're somewhere with an exit. I took it. Cold. Light. Heavy in ways that had nothing to do with mass. Carter's tone shifted. Quieter now. There's a storm coming, Logan. Bigger than that squall we rode out. You're caught in it now, whether you like it or not. I left the boat without another word. And for the next few days I watched my back. Didn't go back to the shop. Didn't sleep in the motel either. Stayed in my truck. Moved spots every night. Just me and that flash drive in the glove box. Sitting like a secret ready to bite. Then came the second message. Slipped under my windshield wiper. This one handwritten. He's not who he says he is. Watch the news. 8 p.m. So I did. And what I saw made the hair on my arms stand up straight. Carter Langford. Live footage. Being shoved into the back of a federal SUV outside some penthouse in Boston. Securities fraud. Langford Investments under investigation for insider trading. I blinked. Checked the screen twice. It was him. Same sunglasses. Same smirk. But this time, he wasn't walking out. He was being dragged in. And just like that, the man who gave me the tip that changed my life was behind bars. When you see a man cuffed on national television, the same man who handed you a hot tip like it was a piece of gum, you start asking real uncomfortable questions about your own neck. I sat there frozen, one hand still wrapped around the motel remote, the other in a bag of gas station pretzels that suddenly tasted like ash. The screen blared Carter Langford's name like it was a brand of plague. Disgraced billionaire Carter Langford arrested by SEC. Insider trading ring exposed. Langford at the center. They showed the footage on a loop. Carter being escorted into the black SUV, flanked by suits with no patience. His smirk never faded. That was the worst part. Like even handcuffs were a minor inconvenience. I barely slept. Again. By morning, Port Echo was buzzing like a kicked beehive. Locals at the diner were passing rumors like sugar packets. Feds froze everything, one guy muttered over pancakes. Every Langford account, every holding, gone. Think he really did it? Hell, he always looked crooked to me. Word is, some poor sap made a fortune off Veritide 2 days before the announcement. They're trying to find him. I stiffened. That poor sap was me. I didn't stick around for hash browns. I packed up everything I had. 2 duffels, the last of my cash, and that black flash drive, and left the motel before the sun fully burned through the mist. Hit the road heading west. No map, no plan, just gone. 3 hours later, I pulled into a truck stop on Route 4, somewhere between Lost and Nowhere. I needed to breathe, clear my head, figure out if I was about to become some poster boy for dumb luck turned criminal accomplice. So I did the one thing Carter told me not to do. I plugged in the flash drive. It auto-launched. No password. No splash screen. Just a single video file named Play If I'm Taken. I hit play. There he was. Carter. Same linen shirt. Same ridiculous sunglasses. He was standing on Serafina, wind tugging at his hair. Logan, he said like we were FaceTiming across time. If you're watching this, it means I'm either in custody or dead. And if that's the case, then congratulations. You just became the most valuable loose end in North America. I swallowed. Hard. He continued. Veritide wasn't just a tip. It was bait. Someone's been using me to manipulate biotech stocks through federal channels. Not ninefold. Bigger. Dirtier. Government adjacent. He paused, glancing over his shoulder. There's a man named Dalton Trigg. Used to work black budget cyber ops. Now he freelances. Funds startups just to crash him. Veritide was supposed to tank. But I leaked the data to you first so the trade would spike instead. Flip the script. He leaned in. Eyes colder now? And that made you a target. I felt sweat bead on my forehead. Carter smiled grimly. I've stored backup evidence, contracts, emails, server logs in a locker at the Pinehurst Rail Depot. Keys taped under my deck chair on Serafina. Box 818. Use it. Then, softer. I didn't mean to drag you into this. But maybe it's better this way. You're smart. Careful. And nobody's watching you, yet. The video cut out. I stared at the screen until it went black. Dalton Trigg. A name I'd never heard. And a box in a train station that could either save my ass or put a bullet in it. I drove back east like my life depended on it. Because it probably did. Got to the marina just after midnight. Port Echo was sleeping, lights down, fog up. Serafina still sat at Dock C like it hadn't been the starting line of a hurricane. I climbed aboard, lifted the deck chair. And sure enough, there it was. Taped underneath with gray duct tape, smudged but intact. Locker key. 818. I pocketed it. Then I heard a noise. Soft. Behind me. Wood creaking under weight that wasn't mine. I spun. A man stood at the stern. Black jacket. Pale face. Hands in his coat like they were hiding something colder than the air. Logan Reed, he said. Not a question. Who's asking? He stepped forward, slow. Name's Trigg. Just like that, my blood iced over. I think you have something that belongs to me. Trigg didn't look like a killer. But then again, the dangerous ones never do. He was clean-shaven, sharp-jawed, wore a coat that looked military and eyes that looked hollowed out by secrets. No badge, no ID, just the kind of presence that sucked the warmth out of the dock. What do you want? I asked, trying to sound steady. You've already seen what I want, he said. The flash drive. The locker key. Carter Langford's little panic gift. I gripped the rail behind me. Thought about jumping. About running. But Trigg didn't twitch. He didn't flinch. He waited. You killed him? I asked. Trigg smiled barely. I didn't have to. He was arrogant. Sloppy. Thought he could turn on his own shadow and walk away clean. I'm not him. Not yet, he said. He took a slow step forward. Listen, Logan. You're a mechanic. A dock rat. You're not built for this world. You got pulled into something too heavy too fast. But that doesn't mean you can't walk away. Right now. And if I don't? His smile vanished. Then you die in the dark and the world keeps spinning. Silence. Wind rustled the sailcloth above us. Some boat bell clanged down the pier like it was tolling for me. Then he said it. Give me the key, Logan. And we'll forget you ever existed. I didn't move. Not because I was brave. Because something inside me, some stubborn, busted part that had lived on the edge for too damn long, decided I wasn't about to crawl for another man's comfort. I don't have it, I lied. He stared at me. A beat too long. Then he nodded, slow. All right, he said. Have it your way. He turned. Walked off the boat. I didn't breathe until his footsteps faded into the fog. Didn't move until my legs stopped shaking. Then I ran. I drove straight to Pinehurst. Didn't stop for food. Didn't check mirrors. Didn't blink longer than a second. Every truck that passed felt like a tail. Every set of headlights like a loaded gun. By dawn, I was in the depot parking lot. Pinehurst Rail was one of those old freight stations converted into a commuter hub. Brick, rust, and pigeons. Locker 818 sat in the far row tucked behind a soda machine and a vending unit that hadn't worked since Y2K. I slipped in the key. It clicked. I pulled open the door and froze. Inside was a black Pelican case. Heavy. Sealed with 2 padlocks, both snapped open like someone had beat me here. I lifted the lid. Inside was a mess of documents, a USB drive, and something that made my stomach drop. A burner phone. Still on. Still warm. And blinking with 3 missed calls from a number labeled Trigg. I picked it up, heart hammering. Before I could unlock it, the screen lit up again. Incoming call, Trigg. I didn't answer. I smashed it against the locker door until it cracked in 2. Then I took the USB and ran. Holed up in a motel off Route 90, different town, different zip. Paid cash. Used a name I hadn't spoken in 10 years. Pulled out my beat-up laptop, killed the Wi-Fi, and opened the USB offline. What I saw nearly made me puke. Emails between Trigg and executives at ninefold. Internal memos, shell company ledgers, falsified FDA reports. Veritide wasn't just a biotech company, they'd been experimenting with data manipulation in clinical trials, falsifying patient outcomes, laundering investment losses through fake IP sales. Carter had exposed the tip of it. But this was the whole damn iceberg. And at the bottom was a list. A hit list. Names. Faces. Amounts next to them. Some with check marks. Some with red XS. One of those XS was Carter Langford. Another name was circled in yellow. Logan Reed, priority track. I stared at that list until the screen blurred. Then came the knock. Soft. 3 taps. Then silence. I reached under the mattress. Grabbed the wrench I slept next to now like a teddy bear. Crept to the door. Looked through the peephole. Nothing. But I opened it anyway. And standing there, dripping wet from the rain, black coat, no umbrella, was a woman I'd never seen before. She didn't smile. She just said, "If you want to live through this, you need to come with me." Now. She looked like someone who didn't flinch. Hair tied back in a no-nonsense ponytail, combat boots splattered with highway mud, eyes that scanned everything in one sweep. She didn't even ask if I was coming. She just turned and walked away like she already knew I'd follow. And the thing is, I did. Not because I trusted her. Hell no. But because the kind of trouble I'd stepped in didn't leave room for options. Only exits. We got into a matte gray sedan. No plates. No radio. Smelled faintly of metal and something sterile like a hospital without the healing. She drove like she'd stolen the car, but every movement was measured. Controlled chaos. Name? I finally asked. Call me Harper. That your real name? No. Fair enough. 20 minutes passed. No words. Just road, rain, and the low hum of impending dread. You're on their list, she finally said. Top 3. Yeah, I saw. Who are they exactly? I've heard Ninefold. I've heard about Trig. I've seen enough fake paperwork to fill a warehouse. She nodded. All true. But Ninefold isn't a hedge fund. Not anymore. It's a conduit. They started as a finance syndicate, then bought influence across medical research, military contracts, energy. Yeah? They specialize in manipulation. Markets, people, governments. Trig's one of their hands. You're not supposed to know his name. Well, I said deadpan. He introduced himself. Real gentleman. She cracked a grin. First time I'd seen her human. I used to be like him, she said. Not as sadistic. But same circle. What changed? I watched someone die who shouldn't have. Realized I was on the wrong end of every cause I claimed to serve. We pulled into a nondescript warehouse. No signs. Just concrete, barbed wire, and motion lights that flared like interrogation lamps. She tapped a code on a side panel and ushered me inside. The room beyond looked like something from a spy thriller: monitors, signal jammers, Faraday cages, a rack of burner phones like candy dispensers. She sat me down. Slid over a coffee that tasted like burnt tire and truth. Langford gave you the drive because he didn't have time to finish it, she said. But I do. And now so do you. Finish what? She spun her laptop around. On screen, a heat map of the U.S. overlaid with blinking red zones, all marked with 3-letter codes. Pharma companies. Military bases. Data centers. What am I looking at? Leverage, she said. These are the assets Ninefold either owns or is trying to. Veritide was a front for something bigger: biodata acquisition. They're building profiles on citizens through fake clinical trials, then selling that data to the highest bidder. I felt sick. Why me? Because you broke the chain. You profited when you weren't supposed to. You forced Trig to react, and he never reacts. He controls. She leaned in. You're a glitch, Logan. And glitches get deleted. I didn't ask for this. She nodded. Neither did I. We worked through the night. She decrypted what I couldn't, mapped what I missed. Names, connections, flight logs, corporate charters. Each thread led to another, spiderwebs of control, and in the middle, Ninefold's digital brain, codenamed Halo. Halo's not just a server, Harper said. It's a predictive model. It runs simulations. Markets, political reactions, public sentiment. And it's been accurate within 3% for 7 years. Sounds like the beginning of every bad sci-fi movie ever. Except this one's already written. We plan to leak it all. A coordinated drop. 3 time zones. Multiple reporters. Redundant storage across decentralized chains. And that's when the lights went out. Total blackout. Then, boom. The wall behind us blew in, dust and fire exploding like a dragon's breath. I hit the floor, coughing, ears ringing. Through the smoke, figures moved, dark, masked, rifles up. I grabbed Harper's arm. She shoved a drive into my palm. Run, she hissed. Box truck in the alley. Keys under the visor. What about you? She shoved me toward the service door. Run. I did. I hit the alley full tilt, glass crunching under my boots, sirens, or maybe just my own pulse screaming in my ears. Found the truck. Old, loud, rusted like hell. But it started. I peeled off down a back road, heart beating out of sync with the world. Behind me, the warehouse burned. I didn't know if Harper made it. I didn't know if I'd make it another mile. But in my pocket was everything she'd given me. The key to exposing Ninefold. Or the fuse to light my own funeral. I drove for 2 days straight. Slept in the cab. Ate vending machine jerky and lukewarm soda. Kept my phone off and my head low. The flash drive Harper gave me was tucked in the lining of my jacket now, stitched behind the label like contraband. My heartbeat followed the rhythm of the tires on pavement, every thump another second borrowed. I didn't know where I was going, only who I needed to find. Someone who still believed in truth. Took 3 burner phones, 2 untraceable emails, and 1 favor from a retired journalist who once owed my brother a get-out-of-jail card. But I got through. Claire Miles. Pulitzer winner, whistleblower junkie, blacklisted from 3 networks for overzealous reporting. Translation: she still gave a damn. We met at a train station in Ohio. Neutral ground. She stepped off the platform with a duffel over her shoulder and eyes sharp as hellfire. No handshake. No pleasantries. She looked me up and down like she was reading footnotes on a ticking bomb. You Logan Reed? She asked. I used to be, I said. Not sure what I am now. We didn't waste time. Rented a storage unit with a diesel generator and a steel door. No Wi-Fi. Just copper wire, coffee, and paranoia. She popped open Harper's drive. It wasn't just evidence. It was a blueprint for collapse. Video confessions. Internal memos. A live map of Halo's simulation data down to zip codes and congressional pressure points. Claire went pale. She'd seen a lot. This still rattled her. This isn't about money, she whispered. It's control. Exactly. She looked at me. And you're the linchpin. That night, we hit the switch. 7 reporters. 2 global nonprofits. 1 darknet release. A backup leak program to spread like a virus if any of us went dark. Ninefold's crimes spilled into the world like oil in the ocean. Everything went white-hot. Breaking, secret data model used to influence markets, voters, and drug approvals. Predictive engine Halo leaked, feds launch task force. Langford's name was cleared posthumously. Trig? Vanished. No arrest. No footage. No body. Just a scorched black car found off a ravine in Montana with no plates and blood on the dash. Harper? She didn't resurface either. Part of me believed she'd made it out. Too smart to die in a warehouse. Too stubborn to go down quietly. Claire published under my name. Said the world needed to know who cracked it open. Said truth had to wear a face. I disagreed. But I let her do it. Because some ghosts deserve a spotlight. The money from Veritide? It sat untouched in a frozen account for weeks. Then one day, after the smoke cleared, the feds called. You're clean, they said. Langford listed you as a whistleblower in a sealed deposition. You get to keep it. All of it. 27,000 became 45 when the stock settled. Then 72 when the dust blew over. I bought a boat. Not a yacht. Just a good, sturdy thing with character and quiet corners. Named her Grace. Didn't go far. Just far enough. Some mornings I take her out and fish with the engine off, drifting. The sun comes up slow and the sea remembers nothing. Other days I help folks around the docks. Fix engines. Patch hulls. Share coffee with old fishermen who think I'm just another salt-washed nobody. They're not wrong. But every now and then a kid will walk by with a phone in his hand, scrolling through headlines. And I'll see it. The man who exposed the shadow market. They call me brave. A hero. The guy who saved the world from invisible strings. Funny thing is, I didn't do it for justice. I did it because someone trusted me with the truth. And because, once upon a storm, a billionaire handed me a second chance without asking for anything back. Just like that little black envelope said. Don't trust him. Maybe I didn't. But I trusted myself. And sometimes, that's enough to change everything.